Right. Hey everyone, I'm Klloo. So, time to dive on in to the heroes of High Seas. Now, obviously, Puffin and Gravy, there's not really much to discuss just yet until we have a better idea of their playstyle and card pool. But when it comes to our favorite treasure hunter, well, thanks to her ability, mainly her secondary static ability, rather than whatever the mysterious symbol, again, relates to, we have some pretty disgusting combinations with certain cards. Starting off with probably best in slot bow, at least until Azalea LLs, is Death Dealer. So yeah, Death Dealer. Pay 1 if you have no cards in your arsenal, put an arrow from your hand face up into your arsenal. If you do, draw a card. Right? The implication there being you get to load an arrow, draw a card, and then trigger Marlynn's ability. So, in conjunction with, of course, the other big staple of Ranger, New Horizon, Death Dealer is basically a pay 1, load 2 arrows, and draw. That is just disgusting, right? That is absolute insanity to me. Thankfully, the card pool in terms of arrows with Go Again is not enough for this just to be a straight aggro build of Marlynn, but still being able to, again, load 2 arrows straight away and then just, buff them, shoot them, is just absolute insanity. And again, both of them end up face up as well, so clearing one of them still gives you that extra arsenal slot with New Horizon for the end of your turn. It's just, yeah, it seems awfully powerful to me. It makes me wonder, right, again, towards her testing, because most likely in set, whatever card she gets, whatever bow she gets is going to be a little bit more balanced, but looking at the other cards that she has access to across the board, it kind of raises some issues and questions. Case in point is also going to be 3 of a kind, right? So 3 of a kind, not banned, even though it's a decent draw engine, because again, it has hefty self-imposing limitations. However, once again, thanks to the secondary static ability on Treasure Hunter, 3 of a kind is now a draw 3, load an arrow, right? So again, that is a big correction of its main disadvantage. We get 3 cards, we could load, say, a 2-cost arrow, and have the resources to utilize said 2-cost arrow. Now, in conjunction with another card like Tri-Shot, to then reuse our Death Dealer, we can just get a whole bunch of fodder, basically, to pitch away, while also, again, being able to load a ton of arrows to fire, right? 3 of a kind in itself with Marlynn's ability just seems like it's the perfect Perch Grappler's turn. But if we then tie all our cards together, so again, New Horizon, Death Dealer, Tri-Shot, and 3 of a kind, and then another proc of Death Dealer, we can definitely line up a crazy sequence. So, imagine in hand we have a Titanium Bobble and a Falcon Wing, right? One of the arrows with Go Again, and then on top of our deck is another Falcon Wing. What this means we could do is, again, we can activate Death Dealer, pitching the Titanium Bobble, loading 2 resources, arsenal the first Falcon Wing, draw the second Falcon Wing, and then arsenal it as well, giving us 2 arrows, 2 0 for 3s, both with Go Again. We can then use Tri-Shot to re-enable Death Dealer, use one of our 2 remaining resources to 3 of a kind after shooting our 2 Falcon Wings, to then draw more arrows and load more arrows. So if we draw our 3rd Falcon Wing, that's now a turn of 3 Go Agains, right? So 9 overall. We could then also draw a Bobble as well, so that we have enough resources to shoot maybe a more expensive arrow like a Sigum Shot or a Widowmaker, right? So again, just through Tri-Shot and 3 of a kind, this is a 5 arrow turn. And again, with Perch Grapplers, you don't need the Go Again arrows, you could just have a nice string of 0 for 4s, which is definitely a super aggressive aggro turn, right? And then once your deck's been whittled down to maybe the cards that have Go Again, the cards that maybe reload, you can still do really disgusting things with 3 of a kind. The other big point is this doesn't even require a blue to kickstart, right? We just need the resource for Death Dealer and 3 of a kind in the case of the arrows shown. So we could start with a yellow Crack Bubble, right? Into basically any yellow in our deck, and it does seem like the High Seas heroes are going to be a pretty hefty blend of all 3 colors. So yeah, this is definitely workable. And again, begs the question of, is it time for 3 of a kind to go? Because this hero just, again, circumvents its main drawback and its main rationale still being available in Classic Constructed and, of course, Blitz. Now, the other thing with 3 of a kind, we have Long Draw Half Glove, right? So 3 of a kind by itself, if you're just running a singular copy in Marlynn Treasure Hunter, you play 3 of a kind, you get 3 cards. You arsenal an arrow, and then you can long draw away the other 2 cards that you've drawn to get, most likely at minimum, an extra 8 attack arrow for your turn. That, again, seems like absolute absurdity to me, but we can take it further, right? If we get some Bolton shots where we can buff it, so for instance, this Bolton shot, now imagine being a 0 for 8, has go again, and it has the ability to reload. So any extra cards in our hand, we can then reload and keep going, meaning that we continue to circumvent that condition of 3 of a kind. So, for instance, we could also tie in, say, Rain Rathers, and imagine now we drew 3 Bolton shots of 3 of a kind. We kickstart it, we load one, it has the buff because of Rain Rathers, and then we just shoot, shoot, shoot. Now, the big thing about this is how Marlynn would utilize 3 of a kind in comparison to, say, Riptide or Azalea. Because the big factor is both Riptide and Azalea, when it comes to 3 of a kind, you want to do it at the end of your turn, but neither Riptide or Azalea have the functionality to capitalize on that. So for instance, with Riptide, we play a card, we can arsenal a card, meaning that when you want to play 3 of a kind, you still have to retain a card in hand to then arsenal and then draw 3, meaning most likely the 3 cards that you are drawing off of 3 of a kind do basically go to waste, similarly to Azalea, who has even less functionality in utilizing 3 of a kind. But again, thanks to Marlynn's ability, the fact that 3 of a kind is now draw 3, load an arrow, is definitely huge. Not to mention the other reload cards that we do have access to, and we could probably just take yellows and blues and, again, set it up so towards the later end of the game, this is basically our win condition, right? We 3 of a kind, we find our reload cards, and we just buff and shoot, and circumvent its conditions. So that, to me, is again, definitely scary, right? Already with the card pool that Marlynn does have access to, you can just take a whole bunch of normal aggressive arrows, cycle away yellows and blues, and then still have a really, really strong end game, thanks to cards like 3 of a kind, Tri-Shot, where you can get super value out of, again, Death Dealer. Death Dealer, I can't see what LSS could print in terms of a main weapon for Marlynn to outvalue Death Dealer and New Horizon. So yeah, it definitely seems like New Horizon is just going to continue being a big staple for Marlynn, but in conjunction with Death Dealer, it takes it over the top. So yeah, that's definitely crazy to think about, and that's not even, again, considering Marlynn's main ability. So the do whatever with the mysterious symbol, destroy gold, and create your gold fin harpoons to load and buff. So that itself is also just a ton of access to other arrows, and then not to mention just having gold on board to draw and load arrows. Currently, there isn't a lot of go again arrows. Bolton Shot needs the buff in order for it to have go again. Other than that, we have Falcon Wing and we have Sikkim Shot as a 1-cost arrow. So, I mean, altogether, I say there's not that many, but there's 9 of each. So there's 27 go again arrows that you could take, of which 9 require some sort of buff to make functional. So yeah, 3 of a kind definitely still has a high chance of landing one of those arrows if you do take all the varieties, and therefore just being able to have an aggro run, right, in Ranger, and then finish with a big strong arrow, thanks to floating resources off 3 of a kind, right? The majority of good arrows are at that 1 cost. So Sikkim Shot doesn't really matter. You go 0, 1, 1. And that's, again, what you're doing to close out your turn after you've already played your hand, because that's when you want to use 3 of a kind. That's when the value of 3 of a kind goes way down, again, for Riptide or Azalea, but it's like a new turn for Marlynn Treasure Hunter. So yeah, a bit of food for thought. I would not be surprised whatsoever if 3 of a kind does get banned. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. How do you feel so far? And do you have any insights on either of the other 2 heroes? Because yeah, gauging their playstyles is definitely a lot different to working with really, really strong static ability with cards that we already know exist, in the case of Marlynn Treasure Hunter. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.